Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another Supercoach Insider podcast. Hope everybody can hear me well. Thought I'd jump on here now that I've landed in Queensland, down in let's call it a rainforest. It's probably the best way to put it. That's why I put the photo like that. Just staying down in a bit of a rainforest retreat here, preparing for Benny Boy's wedding. Finally, the rain has stopped from the moment I've landed. I nearly wanted to jump back on the plane because it has bucketed down ever since I got here. Unlike the beautiful weather in Adelaide last night, and also the beautiful weather in Melbourne that I have left. But the rain has stopped for now. Fingers crossed for Benny Boy, my good mate, and your wedding tomorrow. But I thought I'll jump on while I've got the chance, quickly talk about what I've ended up doing with my team, talk about last night, and answer your questions. Always great to have the opportunity to talk to you guys. I know it's the weirdest time, and even myself, Ben and Chris just chatting there. My laptop's got nearly 4 o'clock, which would be Melbourne time, but my phone's saying it's 3 o'clock Queensland time, and the footy starts up here at 4:10, so 5:10 Melbourne time. So it's a bit weird to have for Queenslanders, I guess, 4 game to watch their team Brisbane, especially when people are working, as a couple of animals and stuff are going past out there. And a couple of people as well going through this rainforest. So I'll quickly just go through what I have done. So last night I had Gorn as emergency just in case something horribly went wrong with him. I know so many people went VC. I think the number in the end was about 60%. I'm just going to get that up for you guys, but I know we were having a chat about this yesterday. If you've got Supercoach Gold, you can actually look up this kind of information, but ranked in the top 1%, most vice captain options, 60% exactly in the end went Gorney, and 2.6% went straight captain on him. So 129, it's an awkward score, but you've got to take it. It's not worth risking, somebody get injured. I know I've done that in the past where I had Paddy Cripps go down in the first quarter when he was on 30 odd, and then it just completely ruins you, not just your weekend, but nearly your completely season, just giving up points like that. So, and a few people are asking about Petrarca. That's just a no-brainer. So you've just 141. It's just no other option. The most other popular VCs at the moment, Butters is 12.5%, which I flicked over for a reason I'll talk about in a second. 9.6% is Heaney, so that's of the top 1%. And then the most popular captain options is Tommy Green, Livingston now, and Marley, because people taking Gorn and Petrarca, and then Heaney, Bont, Sarong. So no surprises there with some of those options. Hey, Julie, as well, thanks for jumping on. If you're on there, feel free, shoot me a question. Hopefully the sound's coming through fine. As I said, I'm on a bit of a portable mic out here in absolutely no man's land, but it's nice to be up here in Queensland nonetheless. So last night also loopholed Howes, just in case that went horribly wrong. Again, his first half wasn't much to talk about. 2 weeks in a row, he's recovered in the second half. We'll take a 46. Really only need to get through him one more week for him. I was on the plane writing some notes about this today, and the reality is next week's bye, best 18, round 6, Melbourne have the bye, and then round 7, we get the dual position players anyway. So if you've got Roberts, in my case, Buku, there's Sexton, there's a few others that'll get defender status. You can easily move Howes on there and bring in maybe a forward or a mid-rookie by moving one of those guys back. So one I'm looking at this week, Rowlandson from West Coast. Hopefully Kane McAuliffe, I think it is, from Richmond, starts getting a game. He'll be the perfect one because he played today, I'll play this week, play next week, has the bye round 6, and then we could bring him in round 7. So, yeah, they're all options. So I had Howes there, but I'll take his score now. I've ended up boosting. I really didn't want to boost, but just with the issues with my back line, Draper's come in. I was debating between Draper and Brown, and the reason I've gone Draper, pretty well because it's a much of a muchness, because he is that 31k cheaper than Brown, so he obviously doesn't have to do as much to make money I feel like their job security is very similar, but it also allowed me to move Sexton and keep Berry. Since Sexton got dropped, it's kind of a dead weight in there. Get another week at Berry. Berry at least has got a -9, and hopefully he can kind of reset that. But even like Supercoach's projections, him going 44, which he probably should able to do. He makes 25K there. Awesome. If he has another, if he could have a 60, 70, 80, he can stick around for a few weeks there in the forward line. So that's what I'm doing. In regards to that, I had a question, and I'll get yours straight away, Cal. Are you taking Gawn's at 129? See, I don't have Gawn as vice captain. As you can see, there behind on that screen, I've got him as emergency. And that was just in case something went horribly wrong. So I'm going to have my VC. I really wanted it Heaney, but now that I've traded Sexton and got rid of Gipkus, I've got no other option there for that later day. I was thinking maybe I'd do the reversal and then reverse Berry back to Sexton, but I feel like I'm playing with it too much. Harley Reid was the other one that got traded out for me. Potentially I could have done Reid back in, Sexton comes back in, and then I can go, who was it, and get rid of Fife. But I just feel like Fife, a couple of big games for Fremantle to prove themselves against some of the better teams in the competition. They're definitely, no disrespect to Brisbane because they finished in the grand final, but obviously going through a couple of problems there. So beating them, beating Northern, beating the Crows at the moment, realistically, that's not the hard competition that they're going to come up to, like they're going to get this week with the Blues, and then even the following week against Port Adelaide. So I think it's a massive fortnight for Freo, and if they're serious, Fife's got to actually, be in there and doing his thing. So there's no reason why I probably couldn't put a couple back-to-back 70s or 80s. So thought I'd keep him. And Harley Reid being named in the forward line, I've just got some worries about that as well. So that's where I've gone that. And then the last one's Darcy. And Matt just asked the question about this as well, which is a great question. Is Sam Darcy a must-have? Only way I can get him is Sexton, but would mean I'm one short in defence with all the injuries. Is it worth it? I've had some great debates about this with a couple of other mates. And my issue with, I don't actually think he is that much worth it. I'll see if I can turn that up. Compared to a few other people, it's hard because he literally can walk on the field and he's going to make like 40, 50K for us. And because there's such a lack of, unless you're paying up for Dempsey if you don't have Ubuku, because like minus 92. So worst case, even if he scores a 0, I'm just trying to do the maths on the head there. He's what's that? Roughly 40K. Yeah, 40K if he just walks on that field. And then if he, 42, which is not a great game. If he went that 60K, still probably ends up making 80K for us. Of all the rookie choices, there's not a lot right now. So he is the best of the bad bunch. Is it worth it to take the donut in defense? No. So I don't think Sam Darcy is like, you must get him if you've got other issues. And if I had another defender issue, if let's just say Howes completely stunk up last night, I would have ended up bringing in trading Reid and would have brought in Brown as well and gone the extra rookie and just bypassed Darcy. But for the luxury of doing it, and even though Rory Lobb is performing really well in the VFL, they've got to put games into Darcy. So I feel like that was probably the debate that we were having in the group chat going. Even though Bevo will Bevo us, and 100% I could see him getting subbed this week, and it'll end up in tears. He is the future. Tim English still hasn't re-signed, so what if we know the Perth clubs are coming hard for him. What Jamara, we know clubs at Sydney in particular coming hard for him, but also and a few others, Hawthorn, I believe. So Darcy might have to fill one of those two needs next year. So this is their opportunity to get games in with him. If they can win and put games into him, awesome. And that's what the plan is. And it's not like he's just getting games handed to him. His form in the VFL in preseason leading him was fantastic. So deserves his spot and deserves a good run at it. So if he was able to get hold of a couple goals, at least get a little bit more ruck time, which is always possible. They're happy to put English down the forward line at bits as well. So if he can make the most of that up against Stanley this week, I would have preferred it Conway, but I still think he's going to make about 100K. But, if you've got other issues, don't go chasing it. Like for me, it's pretty well to do what I wanted to do and not trade Fife. I had to get rid of Harley Reid. He'll probably punish me, and Harley Reid will come out and finally get 100 this week. But if he doesn't, he doesn't. All right, let's just go through some of these questions. And I really appreciate everyone jumping on. It's actually a good support here. Hey, Julie. No problem. Best wishes to Benny for his upcoming wedding. I hope Brizzy is a good break for you too. Yeah, 3 days off, which is nice because I probably am a little bit of a workaholic at the moment. But yeah, awesome to catch up with Ben and Chris. So about to head over and catch up with those boys very soon. Just waiting for them to knock off work. So, well, actually, I think Ben's already home, but he's just organising some wedding stuff as expected. Obviously, because he's on holidays at the moment too. So yeah, no, pretty pumped to go see them. It's about a half an hour drive for me to go find the boys tonight. So yeah, it should be good. If you're in Brisbane, feel free to. I actually had a couple of people who follow the podcast actually DM me, so I appreciate that. I do have some spare time on Sunday. Probably thinking about the Storybridge Hotel. That's usually for our cricket club. Everybody knows I'm I love my boys at Parkfield and the girls as well. So, and it is a bit of a drinking hole for us every time we're in Queensland. So that's where I'm thinking about venturing off to if you are here. But yeah, nonetheless, back on to the footy in Supercoach. Blues fan, hey Swiz, think I'm going to punt on McGovern. 100% know the risk, and that's fine. If you know the risk and you know what you're getting yourself into, absolutely. But as long as he's fit, yeah, can he be top 8? 100%. West Coast, I'm not going to swear, but you know what I'm about to say. They are awful. I've been saying it for 2 or 3 years. The debate at the moment, do they need a priority pick and stuff? Like I've made my thoughts clear on that before. Like I feel like the draft system isn't weighted enough for the bottom teams. Yes, West Coast have put themselves in this situation enough, but I've always said I feel like there needs to be, and it might not even necessarily be draft picks. It could be slightly cap support. It could be, better access to state league players, whatever. But I've always said, the bottom teams probably need a little bit more support than what the top teams get. And when I mean top teams, I mean probably the top 4. I could see them, getting cut back a little bit for better access, especially when we've got situations like, and just off topic for a moment, father-sons like Collingwood, Brisbane, some of the top teams have, like Geelong through their great days. And it's the luck of the draw with the father-sons. We know academy kids, but some of the best teams have had a lot of success through that, and that's just pure luck. So I've got no issue with a little bit of extra support in whatever way you want it. Maybe better soft cap, better coaching, or money for coaches for that. That might be the better way to go. So yeah, that's just a bit of off-topic thoughts there. But yeah, McGovern for sure, they're awful. So yeah, as long as you know and have a plan that he potentially, because West Coast, probably Richmond's nearly as bad as West Coast at the moment with their high performance and their medical teams going at the moment. Don't know what's happening with all these soft tissue injuries, but yeah, they've got some serious issues there. But hopefully McGovern stays on the park and he keeps going well. Who have we got here? Choke Artist. That's a great name. How's it going? Yeah, no, going good, mate, up in Queensland. So good flight today. Had a lot of basketballs on the flight too. There must be a big tournament happening up here. Do you like a Sheasel VC tonight? I don't mind it. Yeah, that's left field. That's the sort of thing where my worries maybe the ceiling. Like I feel like what Sheasel's best, maybe 120, 130. Like it's so tough. But if a VC is going to take a risk, I'd rather it's somebody who could really hurt people. But like, yeah, I feel like he could definitely go like a 120, no problems with that at all. I just don't see him hitting the massive heights. Like if you had a Brisbane player and you had Dunkley, Neil, Danaher, for example, a full forward who could get hold of one. If St Kilda were playing Richmond tonight or North Melbourne, for example, like a Max King, Jesse Hogan, they're the people you want to take a bit more of a risk on a VC because their ceiling could just be through the roof. I just don't think Sheasel's like that. I feel like Sheasel's he'll get to the stage where he's just going to become nearly a safe captain option where you can just nearly bank 110 off him. But I think you nearly take a risk with your VC somewhere else. If you've got somebody from the Port game, maybe that. Like Butters, we know he can go 150 plus, and that's why I have changed it to Butters as well. Not only because I don't have the loophole option, but yeah, with Wines out now too. We know Horn Francis is back, but it's really going to be the Butters Rosie show against the Bombers. Big match, gather round. They've had their crosstown rivals Adelaide lose, so Port want to be top dog. Butters will lead that midfield tonight, so that's why I'm going him. And the Bombers very rarely tag. So I'm not too worried about that. All right, I don't really like cheese. Talking about great names, some of the names you guys have out there are just brilliant. Not sure whether to take Howes 46 and stick with my original plan of Flanders coming in, or get Vlost and Whitfield in for Caulfield. It depends, I guess, who Flanders is also replacing in your forward line. But like I always thought, just get Flanders. I don't mind Vlosten, but the problem is he's got the bye in a couple of weeks, so it doesn't really help. So it's probably Whitfield. And am I more confident on Whitfield or Flanders at the moment? It is Flanders. My issue with Whitfield, and he's a great player, and I love him, and I love the Giants. No problems with that. They have played West Coast. They played Collingwood off the coming off the premiership in the shorter preseason than everyone else. Then they play North Melbourne, West Coast. So yes, tons up. Position now. Suns might still give him some points, but if it's a case of a couple other games, and I think Whitfield can still go 90s in those games, but that worries me a bit. Where Flanders, have a look at that Suns draw coming up. And that's why I don't even mind the idea of keeping Berry. Sexton not as much because, again, it's defender, but Berry just because he's playing forward. So after the Giants this weekend, Adelaide Hill is that could bring anything. We have no idea really what's going to happen on these suburban grounds. It's the best way to, and I love the idea of playing on these other grounds, but we don't have the history. We don't have the stats behind what, for example, Ballarat. We have now enough data to say what sort of players perform well at Ballarat. Half forwards, generally, unless you're a Toby Green freak, half forwards, forward pockets do struggle. Bateman, he had an awesome day out, but most of those sort of players do struggle, where the midfielders have a field day. It always blows, a 5-goal win to one end. So you kind of already start to know what's going there. Geelong, we know it's skinny. Sydney, we know it's short. So we can sort of start predicting what sort of players come into play and are better options on those sort of grounds. But we just don't know about this. But following that, they have the Hawks, the Swans, who they've got a terrific record against Sydney at the SCG. I don't have it in front of me, but I know they've won at least 2 or 3, maybe of the last 4 or 5. Then the Eagles, the Lions, and then massive match for the Q Clash, and then North Melbourne. So it couldn't be a better draw for the Suns coming up. So it's hard to ignore Flanders on that. You might go get him next week for 540, 550 if you've got the ability to do it, but you're going to need him for that. Here we go. Matty, who's got the best matchup this week for VC and C? Heaney's got by far the best matchup playing West Coast. The only little bit is maybe Taylor Adams coming in, but he scored 150 last year against the Eagles. They could potentially be worse, and Heaney's potentially better. So why couldn't he potentially go even better than what he did? I feel like, Heaney's probably got another 140, 150 in. And so the only issue could be if they go, okay, Q in the rack, who can we kind of rest? Do we want to give Heaney some time forward, give a couple of these younger guys time in the mid if they get 10 goals up halfway through the third quarter? That's the only worry there for maybe Heaney. That's why I probably like Butters a little bit more. Friday night, Port Adelaide don't get many Friday night games. They're all on show. Kane Corns and the media will absolutely rip them a new one if Port don't come up with the goods tonight. So I think that's where I'm mentally heading, just because of all those reasons. So I just think that's a good matchup because he goes head to head against Merritt. There's a chance that Butters and Merritt just kind of shake hands and they do their thing. Parrish and Rosie might do their thing as well. And they're going to probably have Setagoat in there, and Powell will have Drew, and they're like Port are more likely to run a tag or a run with in regards to Drew than what Essendon are on the other way. So I like that matchup. The other left field one, if we're talking about high ceiling, Jackson up against Carlton's DeConning Mackay. That wouldn't surprise me at all if the Freo were to get up against the Blues and it's Jackson who's he's gone 150 again. I don't think I've seen anyone with the VC on Jackson. That's a risk that you could be if you were going to back in Green as your captain. So I don't mind that one. HTC. Are you more of a fan of a player in Took, who is roughly 570, or an Uber premium in Sarong Butters or Merritt? I'm huge on Took. If I could get him in as well this week, I would, just because of that fixture. What's he gone this year? 124, 128, 102. No, so that's Flanders. Apologies. I'm looking at the wrong Sun player. Where are we here, Mr. Took? As I scroll down, of course, I don't know. Rowley's flying as well. It's funny that nobody's talking about Matty Rowley just because he had that sub 100 game, which was still in the 90s last week. So Turkey 116, 137, 115. But again, that fixture coming up. His last couple of games against the Giants and the Hawks haven't been crash hot, but we know in the past, he's got a 143 against the Giants. He's got a 153 against the Hawks. So there is some massive scores there. Wouldn't surprise me if, the Suns, after they were sort of very disappointing against the Doggies, the fact that they come out, that potentially need to really put in a good effort. If they don't put up against the Giants, then the media are really going to be getting into them, same as Dimmer. So I can see Tukey going on a big run. So just because you save a little bit of money, but I like all those guys. Like he's not going to smash out 140 every week, but he's great. Butters draw, we've talked about it at length. Adelaide Oval, pretty well kicks off tonight. They're at the Adelaide Oval nearly every week, bar I think maybe Collingwood, and they've got maybe one other game in this run. I'll actually get their fixture up. I think the next three are at Adelaide off the top of my head. No, the next two. So it goes Essendon, Adelaide Oval, Freo, Adelaide Oval, Collingwood G, St Kilda, Adelaide Oval, the showdown against the Crows. They play Geelong, and then it's Adelaide Oval against the Hawks, and then they play North away, so big deal. So, I feel like if you had to rank them, that's where it's harder. Maybe just because of price and value, maybe it's Took, maybe Butters, captain. Oh, God. It's a tough decision. Maybe I'll go, and this is really hard because I like all four of them and happily own all four of them. Maybe Butters, Took, Sarong, Merritt, and the gap between them isn't much. Like you're happy with all. So maybe it's just Took slightly because just saving a little bit more money. It's a really hard question. Like some of these ones get a bit hard because they're all guys that you want to own. It's more like it's easier to answer, sitting there going, okay, who's better out of, Steele versus Bont, for example. Easy question, but maybe that's too easy. But then some of those other ones are much harder. Julie, I got in Steele, Darcy and Powell to shore up further trades. I like this too. People thinking about further trades. I don't think people are going to kind of see my scribbles here from today, but I was literally just like outlining what I want to do for further trades today while I'm sitting in the plane doing absolutely nothing. So I was going, okay, next 2 weeks of buy rounds. I don't really need to do a much. Maybe it's one downgrade if somebody comes available or if there's an injury. So just kind of put all like down further question mark injury if need be. But it's sort of just setting myself up for round 7 with these dual position players and already working out who in my team is going to be dual position and where will they fit in. Does Buku stay in the forward line or is it better off to have him in the back line? Roberts the same. Does that allow me to move around my midfield? When do I start looking at cashing out, McKercher, Sanders? What's the kind of the plan there? So at the moment, obviously I've got the setup 2-5-2-4. I kind of feel like, around that round 7, 8 dual position mark, I probably want an extra defender at least and an extra midfielder. But potentially that could just be 2 extra defenders, depending on what I want to do. But I feel like, if I could have a 3-6-2-4 model and then, build from there. And sort of as I head into the buys, I kind of want 4-7-2-4. The forwards will be the last thing I'll probably worry about. So I was kind of mapping out what a plan would look like and the sort of the players that could potentially target just because of their price. So I've put in there, Dawson, Oliver. I know people have been trading out Dawson, but the way it's going, it's like he was back to some form last night, but it wasn't completely great, but he could potentially get so cheap where it becomes ridiculous where you just kind of got to get him like 99, sold enough, break even of 174, and I think that was close to what they had him projected anyway. They had him projected at 103, so they projected him turning up again next week, and if he does that, he's going to get to that 530 mark. It's going to probably get hard to ignore if he's sub 530. Clary's the same. Awful night for him last night, but if he starts getting sub 550, he's very much. These guys are very much in my plans because we know what they can do, and they might be just too cheap. So to continue on your question there, Joy, I have Butters as VC, yep, and Heaney as captain. I have a current rank of 6,000. Good. Is this okay? Yeah, no, don't need it. If you can avoid using another boost, like I really wanted to avoid it, but it's just the way I kind of the way I wanted to do it. Why is Cadman emergency? I don't know if this is the obvious question. Have they actually updated that, or is he? What do they got there? Well, actually, if I get on the right round, that might help. What have we got here? No, it's extended bench still for the Giants. I've got here. So I think Cadman still gets named. I think what have we got there? Probably Cadman, Himmelberg, maybe O'Halloran. Did they put Hayes sub again? Keith won't be in. Peterling won't be in. And then I guess it comes down to Angwin versus Thomas. Probably maybe Thomas, the young fella, maybe Angwin, but probably less likely Angwin. So it's Thomas. So yeah, I'd say Cadman, Himmelberg, O'Halloran, and then one of Thomas and Hayes as the sub. I just feel like that's just how they set up. But just because that's how they name it doesn't mean that's how they officially name it. Cadman can definitely still start on field. So I'm not too worried about that. But depending on how they do name it, I may swap around, Darcy, Berry, and Cadman. It's probably the week Cadman doesn't actually do as much, knowing it. So I don't be too stressed about that. We only just start stressing until the final teams come out, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, why wasn't he named? Thoughts on Dawson? Like 99 was good. If you've traded him out, I get why. He's just going to drop so much cash. I want to see more. The biggest issue with Adelaide, and somebody it might have been Cole Brewer on Twitter, so I'll give him an acknowledgement because he was talking about it. He was getting quite a lot of heat, saying Crouch is the problem at Adelaide. And I was listening to talk back last night because I was working pretty late, and then obviously driving off to the airport about 4 a.m. this morning, so I haven't had too much sleep. But so I was listening to further on SEN and a couple other talk shows in regards to what everyone's thoughts about the Crows is. And I actually can do, to a point, agree there with Cole was saying, and then a couple of callers saying Crouch has become the problem. But their record since he's come back in isn't great. There now, he's doing everything from his point of view well. So it's not Matt Crouch playing bad. He's great form. Again, was probably there behind Laird there and Saligo, maybe their best player. Potentially, he finds the ball, gets his 29, 30 touches, lays tackles, does everything you'd want from him. The bigger issue is because he's come in, it's probably made them very predictable. So does he do what Laird and Dawson do better? I'd say no. He does it very solid, but he doesn't do what they do better. So what's ended up happening is Crouch comes in. He doesn't have a huge time on ground anyway, but he's taken away from what sort of Dawson and Laird were just doing. And then what was happening is they would have a third player in there. And I don't think Sam Berry was necessarily the answer, but it might be Saligo, Rochelle. They were throwing a whole lot of people in there, and they had a bit of predictability about them. And I know Kane Corns was saying this on the radio last night. And as much as, he says a lot of stupid stuff, he does say some good stuff as well. And just about, you've got a guy highly talented like Rochelle, you've got Rankin, you've got these guys, and they're not getting the same opportunity because Crouch has come in there. And because of that, Adelaide have come very Fremantle-like, very slow, the way their ball movement is, no great transition, and no link up to their forwards. And their forwards are, they're trying to work through oppositions who have got time to get back and set up pretty well, like Freo have played for years. So I feel like the answer for them is, if Crouch wasn't there, they could throw some of these guys in there, bit of unpredictability, and then Dawson and Laird can just go back to doing what they were doing so well last year. And it wasn't surprising that Dawson's numbers dropped off last year when Crouch came in. How bad do they get? Like, they lose to the Blues next week. If they lose to the Bombers 0-6, that would be awful. Then they've got to go play North. They don't want to be 0-6 playing North down in Blundstone, because the pressure on Adelaide there will be absolutely next level. And North, and I agree with some of the commentators last night, North have got to get a scalp at some point. Like, do you really want to be Adelaide, North, and 7 going there? So at what, it's hard. Like, it's not like they can drop Crouch because he's in good form. So is it on the fact that they've got to then try to find different things for Dawson? I really hope it's then they go, okay, maybe Dawson or Laird, one of you guys need to go back to half back and play a transition role and get us some ball movement from there. And then one of them picks up defender status by the halfway mark. That would be the perfect scenario. So either a couple of things are going to do. They're going to have to completely change up their midfield, which is good for Dawson, or they drop Dawson back. The worst case would be if Dawson was to play more forward, and then, that name that I've got on my notepad there would just get completely crossed out. Oh, okay. What do we got here? Hey, Will, how do you feel about Jeremy McGovern over Whitfield? Or is there someone else you like at 550? Chris and I were talking about this. The player I like under 550 is Hayden Young. And I know people want to kill me for saying that because so many people traded him out. Can't wait to see what Young does against Carlton this week. Because if he comes out and smashes 110 plus, I tell you what, I'm going to be targeting him in the next couple of weeks. But I don't think we can move on that yet. And I know people want an answer on that now, sort of Whitfield, McGovern. I like McGovern more for the scoring, but I prefer Whitfield for his body. And I think that's the best way to kind of put it. I feel like McGovern at some point's got to break down. Like his games per season aren't great. I'll see if I've got it here in front of me. I did have it up here before. But like Whitfield, I know he's been the burn man. Maybe it's the anti-burn man year because like Heaney's doing so well for us. So maybe it is like Whitfield's year. His halfback role that he absolutely loves. It's something that Leon Cameron didn't played him around too much. He used to bevo us all the time. But it's just McGovern. Like if we take from 2020, he's played 11, 15, 10, 9, and 3. And 3 obviously been this year. So far, so good. But 11, 15, 10, and 9, the risk is there. The hope is he strings 6 to... If McGovern makes it to his bye, fine. Because if he gets injured after that, he's probably now 600K and you can trade him out to anyone. So I've got no issue if you want to pick McGovern. And with the extra trades, maybe it's worth the risk. It just be aware at some point, you going to have in the back of your mind, you may have to trade this guy out. If you're comfortable with trading out him at some point, then fine. Go McGovern. What we got here? Mark, bringing in 2 defenders this week, Whitfield, Clark, or McGovern. Best 2. Again, Whitfield, McGovern. Clark seems to be... I thought he was a high draft pick. We knew why Freo were targeting him. Big loss to the Cats. And he looks solid enough. But as I said earlier, and this goes with Sarong and Ryan and all them, they've had a pretty cruisy draw to start off the year. Do some harder matchups. I would have much preferred to see Clark with a Carlton or a Collingwood. Well, maybe not Collingwood to start the year, but Carlton, Port Adelaide, one of those teams, just to see exactly where they're at. But if he keeps motoring along, he'll still be a fine option. But for him to break out and go from mid 80s to 100, 105, 110, that's a big jump. So I feel like Whitfield and McGovern have done it before, a bit more reliable, but there's no reason why a player can't like that break out. But then are we really going to think Clark, Wanganeen, Malira, all these guys are going to go 1-5, 110 throughout the season? All these players are going to have down patches, and I feel like the little bit of freedom that they've had, like Adelaide, they've been giving points up to all halfbacks this year. So I feel like could be a little bit of if Clark comes back to an 85, where at least McGovern, the ball's going to bomb into him all day. He's just going to take intercept marks, and if Whitfield's back there playing halfback, he shouldn't have too many problems. The only issue with Whitfield, if the Giants get everyone fit, and it's Perryman and Iden, they've got all their backs set down there, Sam Taylor, there's potentially that they may have too many mouths to feed. They've already got this gun midfield, and then all of a sudden there's Whitfield, then get moved around. Lockie Ash can go. So there is a little concern that, there's only a certain amount of points a team can have. They've got a forward line which has Toby Green and Hogan in there, and on any given day they can get a 150. So I feel like maybe the Giants are capped a little bit, just with the amount of good players. So that probably, before the answer is if you're happy with the potential of trading at McGovern at some point, take McGovern. If you're happy with kind of the more consistent, if you want the safety, go Whitfield. Clark, he could be anything. Like if he drops an 80 this week, I'm not surprised. If he goes 120, maybe it's the real deal. Would I be happy to wait a week on Clark? Potentially. But yeah, these are the risk and reward stuff that, really plays off. So I probably haven't answered your question there because it's there's so many options. Maybe McGovern. I'm nearly thinking, could you potentially get a rookie defender in instead and like get a Took or somebody else that you haven't got in one of those other lines, and then have maybe another look at somebody. The hard thing also with defenders that we've got to remember. So we've got the 6 defenders. The forwards at the moment, it seems like it's Heaney, Jackson, Flanders, and probably Powell, and then there's question marks on everyone else. Harry Mackay, who, as I said, from preseason, JP was big on. You got Max King could continue to have some good weeks. We're not sort of clear who's going to be sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 in defence. So we know we've got Dacos. He potentially has a bad week this week. But if he doesn't, he still at some point should be up there. If not, finish the year as the number 1 defender. Sheasel's flying, continue to do what he does. So he's going to be up there. Tommy Stewart's a freak, gun, has a bit of white line fever sometimes in games, but we know he's a superstar. James Sicily's a superstar. So that's 4 straight off. We've got Ryan Houston. So there's 2 more. That's your 6. Before we even get into then your other sort of players. So how close can then Whitfield, like I feel like McGovern potentially, just because they're going to see so much ball, can at least match that group for a while with scoring. Sinclair at some point, depending on he gets his full fitness up, rebounds and rejoins that group. Clark, he's going to have to go really well. And even same with Whitfield to match these guys. And just because there's so many other names we're kind of throwing up, there's potential there that these defenders keep going well. Even the worst case scenario is if Laird or Dawson or one of them, as I said earlier, gets moved back to defense. So then that throws a spanner in the works, and all of a sudden, these guys slip out of the top 10. So it's not completely out of the question that they don't finish top 10. Start playing a lot harder opposition, and these other guys go in. Look at Vlosten at the moment. He's having a career year. He's doing what we were hoping Short would do. McGrath, Nick Martin's going to get defender status as well. There is so many options down there. The flip side to that is, because there is so many options, if other people are carrying Martin or they're going to carry Whitfield or they're going to, Will Powell or whoever they have, are you going to be that far behind if you've got Wanganeen, Malira or Clark to those guys? Probably not, because I feel like the gap between sort of 7 and 15 isn't going to be that much. It's just how close can those guys get to those big 6 that we talked about earlier. Houston is a good shout for VC. Yeah, Essendon do. But I don't see him kicking the winner after the siren again. I was there for that. Well, wasn't that heartbreaking for Essendon supporters? Cadman isn't the sub. No, he's just named. So yeah, you expect him to play the whole game. Things happen. Weird things happen. Steele or Took. I'm on Took. I feel like Steele goes better this week. If you've got Steele, there's a solid captain option for you this week. But long term, I think Took's going to outscore Steele. But they're still going to be up there. They're both showing enough form to go, yep, these guys could potentially be top 10 again, if not even higher. They both look great. But yeah, if I'm taking one, I'm taking Took. I can answer that one, not a problems at all. Who have we got here? Out of Flanders and Steele, who should I get? I still can't decide. I'm getting Flanders just because it's the forward. We know what the top forwards are. And Flanders is very much in there. There's just no other real options putting their hand up. Where at least with Steele, there's other midfielders. Other midfielders are going to get cheap. But you look at the averages at the moment in the forward line. So it's Heaney, Jackson, Mackay, Flanders. Hogan and King are key forwards. They're going to have massive games. They're going to have low games. That's going to sort itself out. Tom Powell. Dane Zorko's 8th at the moment. Can the old man keep it up? He looks fantastic. Been playing some half back. But, it's going to be a long season. Does he miss games? Does he need to be managed at some point? Who knows? Tom Papley's up there, but he just dropped a 66 last week. So he's going to have up and down games as a small forward. Charlie Curnow's out there. He's going to have massive games on bad opposition. Alex been great, but he dropped a 74 last night. So as you can see, we're going through those four. The crazy one is Ben Miller is currently 16th. Well, that's ridiculous. So the forwards, there's so many questions about who's going to be 5th and 6th, and that we know who's going to potentially get dual position. I should actually run through that. So this is the list, and I think this has come from who sent this? Somebody sent it to me, but from Jaden Pawlowski. I know I just butchered your name there, mate, but this is the likely list of people who are going to get dual position. Now, a lot can change obviously over the next couple of days, but I'll run through some of these players as well. It's important to kind of think about them. So the obvious one straight out is Nick Martin, picking up defender status. Riley Bonner, Abdul, if you're out there watching, the great Supercoach Godfather, he's going to get defender status. Max Holmes, as I wrote about in the preseason, for those who have Herald Sun subscription, talked about that. Matty Roberts, obviously. McKercher looks likely. Scott, Amon, Zach Fisher. Sexton, maybe not as much now if he doesn't play, but he will. So you got guys like that. Buku Karmas will get forward mid. Elijah Hollins is one to watch this week. He's all eyes on him. If he becomes a mid forward for us. Some of the not as relevant, but Sanders is, because Riley Sanders could get forward status. So this is where potentially, if we keep some of these rookies a bit longer, that opens up spots in our midfield for either rookies or premiums getting in. So that's why also getting Flanders is important there too, because you're going to have midfield spots open up at the right time, where right now, I'd rather the forward in there. Jai Simpkin, a lot of people asking me that preseason in regards to draft. He's on track to get forward status. Isaac Heaney is going to get mid status. Hayden Young will get mid status. Tommy Powell will also get mid status. So this will be handy when we're sort of trying to loophole players around or move players around when we've got injuries. Like, there's nothing better than having a whole lot of players who are mid forwards or defender mids that we can sort of move around. Ollie Dempsey, if he keeps playing on the wing the next couple of weeks, he might be a sneaky one to pick up mid status. Anyone else worth mentioning on that list? No, I think that's pretty well it. So there's a fair few there which are Supercoach relevant that we are obviously looking at. Massimo D'Ambrosio, he could also potentially get mid status if he gets a little bit more wing time, which that would be interesting as well. So there are some definitely some players there who we've definitely got to consider. All right, thanks for the answer. Yeah, it was just as a score like 46. It's not too bad. Like a forward line player rookie probably scores that anyway. At best, where they go 50, 60, it's not really worth it, mate. Mitch, I'd VC'd Gorn. Do I take? Yep. I for those who have joined late, it's an awkward score because you know people are going to end up getting rewarded with like a 140 or 150, but you can't risk it. I gave the story earlier. I did this last year with Patrick Cripps or the year before, and I got absolutely crucified completely. Well, still, it was good enough to finish top 1,000. Or I should say lucky enough. I shouldn't say good enough, but lucky enough. But there was 90 odd points down the drain because I didn't do that. I feel like it would have been a different story. A real interesting question if it was 119, because I feel like people's mark is 120. Some is 125, but we're throwing it up last night. It's like if it was a 119, 120, 121. How would other people be feeling? But 129, it just feels like you've got to take that. Kev, hey, Kev, always like having you here, mate. Appreciate it. Cricket man. Alex Grundy to Merritt next week. A good shout. See, Grundy's going to be a great question next week. First, we've got to see what he does against West Coast. What's his price? What's his break even? All that comes into it. But there's so many questions. The one thing that's really frustrating is I would have loved to see Conway playing this week. Because if Conway was playing this week and it looked like they were going backing him in as the number one ruck, and maybe Blitzarves is the one, then he's the one giving him the chop out, then I feel more confident of like maybe bringing Conway, still having Jackson who can loophole with that, and maybe turning Grundy into a different premium. Don't feel as confident now of him not playing. So what do you do? I feel like it's only going up to English. Do we put Jackson in the ruck for a couple of weeks? What sorts it out? The problem is Darcy's back, so it might be a little bit of Rob Peter to pay Paul, but I think what he does this week, that's going to end up being the number one question coming in. What do we do with Grundy? If Grundy 90 or can't be bothered against West Coast, he'll be the most traded out player next week. I'll absolutely watch that. Tuchel Flanders because the forward, we know he's going to be a top 4 forward, if not number 1 forward. Tuch, he's in the mix of that top 10. But yeah, I'll take the number 1 position, especially when it's the midfield. Field Reed or Cadman. Well, as you can see, I've got rid of Harley Reid. I feel like Reed's probably going to be all right. I'm trying to think, can you loophole? If you in a perfect world, if you can loophole them, if you've got like Sexton still or whatever. But I feel like I would have still backed in Cadman. Reed against City, it's just not a great matchup. Like he's going to get suffocated if he's playing midfield. If he's playing up forward, he's not going to get a look at. If they were to name him at half back, maybe I do a reversal there. But I wanted to see that, like playing the McKercher or the Sheasel role or something like that. The fact that he's further up the ground, don't like it at all. Really don't like it. Ralphie, any concern with Powell now that Greenwood is in? Not really. They love him. He's going to be in there. Like Greenwood, does that affect the third chain down? Like, is that just Simpkin now playing? Maybe he doesn't go as well this week, but I still think he's going to be, he should still be good enough for an 80, 85. He's not going to lose complete CBAs. I'd be shocked at that. And is really, do they go Greenwood? Like Greenwood's got to be on his last legs, doesn't he? I'm sure he's only on a 1-year contract now. Like, why would you move the future? A guy who's looking good, getting tons of CBAs, and move him out to, for Greenwood. It doesn't really make sense. Greenwood to help protect LBU, give LDU more support potentially, and then as I said, Simpkin goes forward. But yeah, to eat into Powell, that would be weird. Really would be. But then coaches this year, like every year, just do our heads in. Will, go Swiz, how do you feel about Jeremy McGovern over Whitfield? So I said that. Got no problem, but McGovern at some point, if he can get through to the buyers, you're laughing. Awesome. And then potentially you might need to trade him out there. Just how many games? The worst thing with McGovern, and this is the risk, he does get injured, and he gets injured in games. If it's the first quarter and he goes down with a 10 and you have him as a pod, you are going to be completely on your own now. Or maybe a few more people have got him now. And then all of a sudden, depending on his break even, hopefully he's smashed out some, he still hasn't leveled out. But that potential there. Now, concussions and injuries can happen to any player. I realize that. But this is a guy that we have enough data to see that it happens to him more than most. No different to say a Fife, but at least Fife we're picking as a kind of a mid-pricer. Cheaper option. It's different when you've got this guy as a premium guy and up against other premiums. So that is the risk. High risk, high rewards. If he stays fit, you are laughing because he's going to see a ton of it. Absolute plenty of it, as we know. So I don't mind McGovern. It depends on how much risk you have in your team. So right now, if I had 3 premium defenders and I was looking at a 4th, I'd probably might take the risk on McGovern. The fact that I don't have a 3rd premium defender at the moment, or if I was going to bring one in, I'd be more likely to go Whitfield if I could only afford 2, or I'd probably just go with the crowd and keep Hayden Young, who I do like. I think he's going to start getting that more midfield time. It's just a slow start to the year. Didn't help. And if he goes 100, 110, as I said earlier, he's in my side. Yay, centre bounce. What's up, Swiz? I'm going to gather that's Jeremy, Big J. Check out the boys there, and also the fan casters. Sort of my boys, Jez and Joe. Got this one. Harry Van Der, Field Reed, or did I answer that one before? Yeah, no, I did answer that one before. Sorry. Does it feel dirty having Sanders on the bench? Not really, just because the matchup against Geelong. I like the fact, I could have gone him over Fife, but I feel like Fife, he's got the big game for him, so they've got to play in a perfect one there at F5 this week. But I kept Fife just because I think I'd rather carry him these couple of weeks, see what happens up against these big games, and then he's probably the most likely to get traded out to, and depending on where I want to go. One of the notes I had was, maybe it's Zach Williams, Nate Fife down, and Zach Williams up, and that's how I get my third defender. Just a little bit of forward planning there. Dulin, Gipkus, Ryan, Libba, Dempsey, or Jordan. So it's Gipkus to Ryan, Libba to Dempsey, okay, or Jordan to Dempsey, Gipkus to Whitfield. Oh, that's easy. Jordan to Dempsey, Gipkus to Whitfield. Yeah. I'd be holding Libba. Libba's going to drop some cash, but he's still like I think his last 3 games against the Cats are 120. I think I talked about that the other day. Do you think Bonner is still a chance to ton up? Yeah, he is. Bonner's playing the Tigers. Like St Kilda probably get 3,000 of the 3,300 points this week. It's funny to say that last week, and we did beat the Swans, but I can't, like, how many outs we got this week at Richmond? Like they can't back up. It's just annoying because it's got to be friggin' Poops' team, doesn't it? And Scoops or Coops or whatever, he's going to carry on like the biggest pork chop in the world. But oh well, that's the way it goes. St Kilda are going to, unfortunately, Whitfield D1, love it. That's the sort of risk we like, Dan. Get around it. That's the sort of stuff that wins Supercoach. On that, oh my God, how much do we hate? And I've had a couple other people message me going, like friends or family, they were talking about, I was too late into Supercoach, and I was giving them advice saying, you should weekly this week. Really wish Supercoach would change that, and it just becomes, you've got to have your team in by round 1 to be eligible for the weekly prize. But why it's not, good on them. Well done. Hopefully, somebody we know takes the 1,000 out. Hey, Cal, Alex, good to see you, Swiz. Thanks, mate. Good start by the Tigers. Yeah, well, we'll week. Benny, boost for Dacos down to Whitfield. Now we had this at depth. Talked about this at depth again in our group chat, and the arguments we have, some of them get a bit full on, bit of I'd probably go a bit further than banter, a bit of name calling or whatever. Dacos out. If Finn McGuinness stays, I don't mind it because we know he's going to drop cash. The problem is you're going to want Dacos back in again. Is it worth the trade? The fact that he's got the bye next week does make it a little bit more legit, especially if people are talking about trading out Libba, trading out these other people. Dacos is probably a better option to trade out than it is them. So I would, if you're going to trade out one, I'd trade out Dacos before Libba, just if that was sort of your decision. And I know a couple of people messaged me about that. Just because the fact that there is a chance he gets tagged and he has the bye next week. But I would prefer you to try to work out another way around it. And that was even like me with this week with Fife. I'm like, I don't trade Harley Reid, but I really didn't want to trade Fife this week. So how can I work out, or is there another way I can sort of move my team up? Grimo was the same. He was messaging me like, I've got all these moves. I can move, player A, B, and C who are 2 of them are premiums, or I can look at sort of just moving a couple mid prices around. It might be a JJ or whoever, JJ and Fox. I'm like, that's much better. Like getting rid of a couple of mid prices to bring in a rookie and a proven premium makes much more sense. But if Finn McGuinness is named, he's going to one person and he's going to Dacos. So it's the sort of play there that's the sort of stuff where you boost your rankings. And I know Chris is big on it. He's really considering it. He needs to boost some rankings, and I don't mind it because people aren't going to be able to have Dacos next week. So you're at an advantage of not having him. I've completely lost where I've seen Chris. Yes, what time are you getting to my place? Well, mate, I haven't clearly left the rainforest yet, but once I finish off of this, I was nearly going to do. I'll do it now. Do it while I'm here, mate. And then I'm going to get in the car. So I have picked up some brewskis, so I will be there soon, mate, to watch Benny cry as his team loses to North Melbourne. Wouldn't that be amazing? If he holds the cash, fair enough too, Dan. Pray from Drew. Yeah, that'd be good. Because my other half and a few people, a bit like M, formerly known as Supercoach Mama, So I think she's called her team this year the boyfriend's team, just because she gets a bit of crap about that. I know a few people have been giving it to saying, "Oh, is that my second team?" My wife takes her Supercoach and her footy very seriously. Bombers supporter, she'll be watching. She's a little bit annoyed about I'm here in Queensland for the wedding because she was wanting to fly over to watch Port Adelaide Essendon this week. So yeah, she takes it really serious. She's in Divi 1 of our cricket club league, and we've got 4 divisions, and she is absolutely smoking me at the moment in Supercoach. She said, "Oh, why a little photo as an expert?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, the way it's probably going, you might." So she started Zach Merritt, and she's of all the Essendon players she likes and dislikes, Merritt's the one she dislikes for whatever reason. But she's like, I'm starting him, and she's like, every week, it's like he's doing the job, he's keeping well. So I'd love to have a tag because I just want to see her get pegged back a little bit because the household. At least I guess I get to talk a bit more Supercoach at home because she's up and about it. McAuliffe is the perfect. He is absolutely the one that we want playing because he has that buy in round 6. And I said, Chris, I don't know if you were on earlier, but the one I really like is trading him for Howe. So Howe's plays next week. Then we move Roberts or Buku or any of those other, Martin in your case, back, and then he can just come into the midfield. So that's the one, 100%. Yeah, Dan, everyone says, I need another defender. No, I don't need another defender yet. This week it doesn't look great. Remember, next 2 weeks are best 18. So it doesn't matter. If I've got more premiums in the other lines than the defense, who cares? Some people have 4 defenders at the moment, and they've only got 1 or 2 premium midfielders. So I've obviously gone the other way round. Some people have loaded up in the midfield. Some people, it's matching. Like I could take out, my team would look more balanced with Libber out. I'd have, say, Ryan in there and then have Sam on. Yeah, it probably looks slightly better. And it's probably, it could potentially be like 20 points better for me overall. But best 18 next 2 weeks, I couldn't care less. And then I'll get the defender in. Not going to touch the forwards. Yeah, and I said that about that earlier too, Chris. You're 100% right. Chris, obviously, the people who don't know, you should know. Our great show here. And we've been big on this. There's no defenders putting up their hands. So, yeah, we're all good. Brunswick, thanks, mate. Appreciate it. More shout out to Benny. We did a good, Centre Bounce Boys did a good dual position thing. There's a couple other the content creators. I'm not greedy. Definitely go check some of these guys out. Darcy, I think it's got to be Reed. Yeah, got to be Reed. Yeah. As much as I got rid of him, it's still going to be Reed there. I'm not going to answer that. Sorry, Big J. I really hope we get some decent rookies. Yeah, and that's the only one, like Rollinson, maybe McAuliffe, maybe a couple of these Suns guys. So a bit of watching. We really need somebody to debut next week. That would be perfect because it'll time us perfectly into the dual positions. The centre bounce guys, they're always live. If they're not live, they'll probably be doing our fancast show that I have not been on this year so far. The boys are giving me crap because it's like, oh, you're a new expert. I can't afford you. I think Conway is a bad pick. The problem with theirs, if Conway, as I said, Greg, earlier, if Conway played this week and Stanley wasn't there, or even if they played Stanley more forward and they were saying that Conway is the man, I'd have a bit more confidence in it. The fact that he came in and went straight back out, it's not going to happen. It may happen in the future, but might happen second half of the year, but not now, which is just frustrating because that would have been good. I don't like wishing injuries on anyone, but we kind of need Wits to go down, so Moyes come in, or Nate goes down, so Naismith comes in. But that's not going to happen. There you go, Alex. So I want to go live Monday and Thursday here today on a Friday. Greenwood would play forward ruck. Yeah, that's good. You'd know best, Big J. That's your boys. Fisher to King. Oh, you're going to have to move King somewhere else, but I don't mind that because King's probably going to go well. It is a skinny oval. Potential there that means they're just going to play direct. They're going to feed him. He kicks, he could kick a bag this week. He hasn't massive bags and still going 100. I don't mind that. Is King going to be good long term? Probably not, but he's still going to make 100K. So yeah, why not? Why not? This is the third year of a 3-year contract. Yeah. So Greenwood, this is his last year, as I was talking about earlier. Yeah, we need Closley. We need any of these guys to just make that, lock themselves in. the fact that the Suns are blooding these players, is it going to be so much chopping and changing? Does he just want to look at everybody? It's a bit. I don't like it, Tommy. I feel like there's going to be hurt there. We're just going to keep getting chopping and changing from some of these Suns. Got 200 in the bank. Jordan to Flanders this week, or save it to go Grundy to English next week. As much as I've been recommending Jordan to Flanders, just the fact that Jordan has West Coast this week, you're probably going to get the similar score out of both of them, and that'll be a big tick for you because a lot of people will be holding Grundy, and a lot of percentage of people have Grundy. So the fact that you can get him to Timmy English, yeah, I think you're not going to be hurt by holding Jordan to Flanders that much this week. So yeah, mate, save it. Unless there's another way that you could do both. Yeah, I don't mind saving that, Brian. Any merit in grab? No, I don't. I'm not a big fan of this Bramble pick. I wasn't so keen on Keane. Well done to those who got Keane in because he obviously did quite well last night again. But the Bulldogs lineup, like they're where is it here? I want to actually look at this properly. So you got Bailey D, Williams, Bramble, Johannesson in the back line for starters. Then on the bench, we've got Ed Richards, who's their halfback flanker. You got Taylor Duray, who's in their leadership group, halfback flanker. Caleb Daniel, who plays everywhere. His best position is halfback flank. So Bramble is playing very well at the moment, but there is 7 halfback back pockets that I've just named there. Yeah, they don't all fit in. So I feel like if he has a bad game, but he has a bad game, he's out. He's either sub or he's out. One of these guys get their opportunity. It is literally Lord of the Flies with the Bulldogs halfback at the moment. So yeah, I'd be just leaving that alone if you can. Will Bonner even get named? Yeah, that was record, wasn't it, with the amount of turnovers last week? And he still went 100. Could you imagine what he would have gone if he didn't have 17 turnovers? Like that could have been next level. That would have been crazy. So yeah, that'd be interesting. Hey mate, who you got? Who's going in for CCJ? Charlie Comden's been named. Yeah, we added in our group chat. One of the boys knows Charlie well, so yeah, he was messaging saying he is in and he's playing. Where has Mr. Comden been named? Actually, I'm pretty sure he's been named in the forward line. So yeah, he's in. Jed Walter, I hate young key forwards like that. I feel like Darcy's just because he's been in the system a little bit longer, but I would be trying Walton. I think he's pretty expensive as it is. Worth using a boost to get Draper in for Reed, only if you have a donut. If you don't, nah. But because Reed will be back in a couple of weeks. So the next couple of weeks of buys, after that he comes back. So not worth it. I only end up doing it because I had the donut. I didn't want the 0. And now watch Draper probably score 10 and make it worth it. No, could be a bigger profit than Darcy. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see on that. Yeah, like he looked fine, no problems. But yeah, the difference is Darcy's got a couple more pre-seasons behind him. So I don't know if I'm that confident about going there and saying, yeah, let's jump on the Jed Walter train just yet. What did he end up doing in his first game? He only got 37 Supercoach too. Like, yeah, I know he missed a couple. Did he miss a couple there? No, actually, no. He only had the 4 touches. No, 37. No way. Big J saying Comden will defend, Greenwood will forward ruck. Comden's been playing backline. Well, there you go. Even though they've named it the other way around, but until final teams, yeah, that's how they do it. But yeah, I guess because Pink was dropped out as well. That's brutal for people who brought in Pink. Like defender rookies has been going. I think that's one of the reasons why my other half is going so well, because she went loaded up in the back line. She did that last year. It didn't pay off. She's like, you know what? I'm going to do the same strategy this year. And it's paid off for her because she hasn't had all these rookie defenders and she's loaded up with rookie mids and forwards. And so she already had like Carroll and Dempsey and all them, which is good. So yeah, at the moment, Big J, Greenwood's been named back and Compton forward, but until kickoff's going to happen in a minute. So we will see. I'm going to go watch that over at the boys' house in one. Is it worth using a boost Sexton to Darcy?
I don't mind that so much, just because, as I said earlier, Darcy walks on the field, he's going to make 40K. I don't know if Darcy's the much of the like he's a lock, but there's just not many other 123 guys at the moment, and I feel like it's a bit of fun. I nearly feel Berry all over again. Darcy's probably going to get subbed out for a 30 and be like, oh, great, that was another great pick. And, they make their 60, 70K for us, and that's it. But it's just that potential where what if Darcy goes 80 and all of a sudden, he goes and makes 140, 150K and you don't have him and everybody else is getting him in. So it depends. If you have how many boosts you've used. If you haven't used one yet, then definitely. If you've used one already, maybe. If you already used two, then no. That comes into it as well. Worth trading Sexton and Lazaro for Darcy and Sharp to keep cash gen going. Yep, that's fine. Lazaro's dead, and Sexton, like, you could potentially hold weapons, but yeah, definitely at least one of them. No problems. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna pack it up there. I know everybody wants to tune in on the footy anyway. Really appreciate you guys joining me on a Friday. That was awesome. And I will see you back when I get back into Melbourne next week. Catch you later. Bye.